3 terrifying true stories of sinister blackouts that expose hidden nightmares and haunted secrets. Rachel huddled close to her daughter Lily in their darkened living room. The silence pressed in, heavy and suffocating, echoing the sudden void that had engulfed their Chicago suburb. No lights. No sounds of the usual life outside. Just a chilling stillness that felt wrong. Fear flickered through Rachel's heart, a disturbing rhythm that quickened as she wrapped her arms around Lily. They had never faced anything like this. "Remember the stories Dad used to tell us?" Lily whispered, her voice trembling. "The ones about blackouts? The strange things that happen in the dark?" Rachel forced a weak smile, trying to mask the dread clawing at her insides. "Let us play a game," she suggested, grasping at the shreds of normalcy. "We can share ghost stories." The first tale emerged, a haunting legend of children who vanished during city power outages, lured by whispers on the wind. As Rachel spoke, shadows danced menacingly on the walls, twisting and turning in the flickering light of their lone candle. Then came a story of an eerie figure seen gliding through the streets at night, an urban legend, until now. Outside, the blanket of darkness thickened, an army enveloping the neighborhood. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." A creak barely heard caught Rachel's ears. Was it the house settling? Or something more sinister lurking just beyond the doors? Her heart hammered in her chest. "Lily, did you hear that?" But Lily, lost in the stories, didn't notice the shift. Rachel's skin prickled as she glimpsed movement beyond the window, just an outline, far away. Shadows hiding shadows. Then it happened, the unmistakable whir of technology feeding back through their home security system. Rachel rushed to check the feed and her breath caught in her throat. There it was, a dark silhouette standing in the periphery of the flickering night vision, just outside the glow of the streetlights. Every instinct told her to run, to lock the doors, but her legs felt like lead. "Lily!" she called, panic streaming through her voice, but the screens went blank. They lost connection. No phones, no light, and aid felt like it was a world away. She felt an animalistic need to protect her daughter, the primal urge to face whatever terror prowled outside their homes gripped her. Outside, the suburban facade started to crack. Neighbors she had greeted with friendly smiles turned into strangers polite but with unsettling undertones. Each step Rachel took toward the door felt like a step deeper into the abyss. Unfathomable sounds whispered from nearby houses, the children's voices she had come to adore now twisted into something malevolent. Back inside, Lily clutched the family heirloom, a small, weathered book of their ancestral legends. As she flipped through the pages, a sudden realization struck: the tales her father had woven were more than mere folklore. They were a warning. Chills raced down her spine as she pieced together fragments of a dark history, a history they couldn't escape. As Rachel returned to the front door, she hesitated. Shadows cloaked the figures of her neighbors, all seemingly waiting. Did they feel watched too? And why had they stopped smiling? The ground trembled beneath her, the air thick with fear. Just as she opened the door, something brushed against the back of her neck, icy and dark. She turned, breathless, realizing they were no longer alone. The door slammed shut behind her as she raced back inside. What was waiting in the darkness? Was safety still behind those walls, or had it slipped through the cracks of her shattered world? Rachel's heartbeat echoed in the oppressive silence, a muted drum pounding within her ears. The shadows seemed to stretch and writhe, converging unnaturally at the edges of the candlelight. She crouched beside Lily, who was now clutching the book tightly, her knuckles white. Rachel struggled to maintain her composure. The atmosphere felt alive, throbbing with a sinister pulse. "Mom?" Lily's tiny voice trembled as she whispered, "What if those stories are true?" The question hung in the air, heavy and chill-inducing. Rachel drew closer, whispering reassuring words, though doubt gnawed at her gut like a festering wound. "Story time is just that, stories," she replied, forcing a smile that trembled at the corners. "They can't hurt us." But even as she said it, the ambience around them thickened, making her words feel empty. Suddenly, a loud crash rang out from the kitchen. A picture frame had fallen, shattering the fragile calm. Without thinking, Rachel leaped to her feet, every instinct screaming for her to investigate. "Stay here, Lily. Do not move until I come back." As she stepped into the darkened corridor, the familiar landscape of their home morphed into an unsettling maze. The light from the candle flickered, casting ghostly shapes across the walls. A cold draft swept through, swirling around her ankles, inviting terror to settle deep within. The house felt larger somehow, the spaces stretching and contorting, swallowing her whole. The kitchen loomed ahead, a door ajar, an unwelcome invitation begging her to enter. Rachel edged closer, anxiety clawing at her confidence. She found broken glass littering the floor, but no intruder. Just her anxious breaths punctuating the tense silence. "Lily!" she called, but her voice felt small, swallowed by the surrounding night. Panic surged through her again. Why hadn't she locked the back door? A nagging thought twisted inside her. Her neighbors hadn't just turned strange, they knew something she didn't. They were waiting. A sudden rustle, like whispered secrets, interrupted her thoughts. It came from the living room. Rachel spun, her heart racing as she retraced her steps back, nearly sprinting. Shadows united, with darkness no longer just a lack of light but a thick, suffocating barrier. She shoved the door to the living room open, but the sight within froze her in place. Lily sat at the coffee table, the book thrown open before her, illuminated by the shaky candlelight. But in the dim glow, something was off. The pages fluttered on their own, fingers she didn't recognize caressing the worn edges, gesturing as if they were relaying a forgotten tale. Rachel's breath hitched. "Lily! Close it!" she shouted in desperation, but the little girl's face was entranced, eyes mirroring an abyssal horror. The illustrations of cursed figures seemed to come alive, swirling in the candlelight as whispers filled the air, sound crawling under Rachel's skin, making her shiver. Suddenly, a flash from outside momentarily lit the neighborhood, and Rachel saw them. Her neighbors stood across the street, ghostly figures in the night, their eyes glimmering with an unnatural light. They were no longer the friendly faces of a loving community but something darker, something waiting for the night to fully consume them. Without thinking, she lunged forward, snatching the book out of Lily's hands. The whispers turned into a scream, echoing in the room, as if the very fabric of the darkness howled in protest. Stun knocked her back for just a moment when the candle flickered violently, threatening to go out. "Mom! What happened?" Lily's voice cracked, panic seeping in, but Rachel's eyes had turned to those lurking figures outside. She was no longer certain where a horror story ended and their new reality began. The air grew thick as the shadows advanced, stretching toward her, beckoning her to relinquish her grip on the past, to enter the depths they were pulling her to. "Lily, we need to go now," Rachel shouted, adrenaline surging as she backed toward the door. Their escape was a race against something primordial. Something begging to be unleashed. As they ran upstairs into the growing darkness, Rachel could feel the chill of countless eyes on them. What awaited them would force her to make a choice. A choice that could seal their fates forever. Was it a sacrifice for salvation, or a descent into madness? As the door creaked ominously behind them, Rachel knew they were not just haunted, they were chosen. What did that truly mean? What awaited them in the dark? Lily's tiny hand gripped Rachel's wrist like it was a lifeline. They stumbled up the stairs, the wood creaking beneath them, each sound echoing in the stillness. The darkness wrapped around them, tightening like a noose, and a deep unease settled in Rachel's chest. She glanced back, half expecting to see something nothing but shadows clawed at the walls, stretching toward her, hungry and insatiable. "Where do we go?" Lily whispered, her voice trembling. Rachel hesitated, her mind racing. "We need to find a safe place, some way to protect ourselves." She instinctively headed for their bedroom, hoping it would feel familiar, grounding in its chaos. But as they reached the door, an intense chill swept through the corridor, making her skin prickle. "Stay close," she commanded, opening the door with a loud creak. They stepped inside, and Rachel flipped the switch, but nothing happened. The bulb must be blown, she thought uselessly. "Mom, what if?" "Hush." She didn't mean to snap, but the pressure was building, a scream clawing at her throat. She moved to the window, parting the curtains just a sliver. Outside, the streetlights flickered in and out, casting eerie shadows on the lawn. Her neighbors were still there, just standing, unmoving figures suspended in a trance, eyes glowing like shards of ice. "Mom, I don't like this," Lily said, inching toward her, clenching her doll tightly. "Neither do I, sweetheart," Rachel sighed, forcing a calmness she didn't feel. She pulled her daughter close, wrapping her arms around her. She wanted to say that everything would be okay, but the flickering candle outside, the only source of light in the world that felt alive, seemed to pulse in time with her thudding heart. Then, from the corner of her eye, Rachel noticed something: the cursed book. It lay scattered on their bed, the pages flipping wildly as if caught in a storm. A forgotten spell, a lost incantation, or simply a trap waiting to ensnare them. The whispers had returned, a low hum that droned in her ears, begging her to listen. "Mom, make it stop," Lily cried, pressing her face into Rachel's shoulder. Okay. Rachel felt her breath hitch. She edged toward the book, the warm candlelight flickering frantically as if it sensed the darkness drawing closer. The illustrations hadn't just been figments of her imagination, they were visions, premonitions of their fate if they didn't act now. As she reached the bed, however, the darkness seemed to peel away from the walls, coiling around her feet. "Can you hear that?" Rachel asked, her voice a strained whisper. Lily returned her attention to the book, confusion on her small face. "Just the wind," she said, but Rachel felt it, an angry thing that howled through the crevices, cold and relentless. "Lily, we need to leave. Now." Rachel grabbed her daughter's hand, pulling her from the room. They darted down the hallway, the atmosphere thickening, their breaths misting in the icy air. A sudden bang resounded from above, a sound like footsteps, heavy, deliberate. They were not alone. Rachel felt the dread settle deep, an icy ball in her gut. Were the neighbors drawing closer? Could it be something else entirely? "Mom, what is happening?" Lily whimpered, eyes wide with fear. "I don't know," Rachel replied, panic edging her voice. "But we have to move, we have to find the door." They darted towards the staircase, heartbeats thunderous in their ears. Each step creaked ominously underfoot, the shadows enveloping them seemed to whisper secrets of despair. As they descended, another loud crack echoed through the house. It sounded like glass shattering, but it was much closer, like someone breaking through. Rachel's pulse quickened, they had to make it outside, find help. Suddenly, the front door slammed shut. Rachel stopped dead in her tracks, paralyzed, feeling trapped in a nightmare from which there was no escape. The whispers intensified, swirling around them and crashing against reality like crashing waves. "Lily, stay close to me," Rachel urged, feeling the encroaching darkness test the limits of her sanity. "Mom. Please." Lily's voice cracked with mounting terror as the whispers morphed into a cacophony of laughter. With desperation clawing at her throat, Rachel pressed on, not knowing what awaited them in the shadows. In this house of horrors, one question loomed larger with every heartbeat. What would they find waiting for them beyond that door? As the walls of their home closed tighter, Rachel realized they had awakened something terrified. Something that wanted them. Rachel's heart raced as she faced the door, knowing the darkness waited just beyond. The whispers grew louder, an unsettling harmony echoing off the walls. Each syllable felt like icy fingers tracing her spine, and she fought the instinct to scream. "Mom, let us go." Lily tugged at her arm, panic-stricken. Rachel turned, her daughter's face pale, a reflection of her own fear. They had to push forward, but as Rachel scanned the room again, she was struck by another sound: soft, methodical scratching from the other side of the door. It was rhythmic, like claws gently dragging against the wood. The door shook in its frame, echoing their fears. "Stay back," Rachel hissed, still holding tight to Lily. What could be lurking just beyond? The neighbors, the whispers. It couldn't be them, could it? They had to find a way out. Rachel moved to the window, yanking open the curtains. Outside, the streetlights flickered violently, illuminating the scene for brief, hallucination-like moments. The figures remained, but closer now, standing as if they could step into the house at any moment. She wished they would move, just a sign of life, anything to dispel the pervasive dread. The scratching grew frantic, a mad desperation, clawing at her resolve. Mom Lily's voice quivered, barely above a whisper, stealing Rachel's attention for just a moment. Just enough time for the shadow to stretch across the floor, dark and menacing. With fierce determination, Rachel turned back to the door, slamming her palm against it. "I want to let this happen," she shouted, her voice echoing in the suffocating air. Somewhere in her mind, a defiant scream rose up, piercing through the fear. She had to break this. Then, the door shook again, but this time, it splintered slightly. A crack formed, just enough to reveal flickering shadows beyond something was trying to get in. "Mom, please." Lily's attempt to pull her away was feeble against the horror unfolding. Rachel shook off her daughter's grip and propelled against the door with all her strength. It crashed open, and they stumbled out into the dark haven of the hallway. They were met with an unnerving silence. The scratching had stopped, replaced by an eerie stillness. Rachel glanced back, nothing but shadows now. They had entered a grieving space where every wall pulsed with fear, every creak felt like a heartbeat echoing their fear. "Mom, where are we going?" questioned Lily, her voice small, clinging desperately to innocence. "To the front door." Rachel breathed, urgency overriding fear. She grabbed Lily's hand again tightly, and together they moved towards the staircase. But as they neared the stairs, a dark figure emerged at the top, blocking their escape. Tall and shrouded in black, it stood motionless, a guardian of the darkness. Rachel's heart froze. It was just a silhouette, but every instinct screamed it was something more. The shadow seemed to snarl, almost like a living creature made of night itself. Rachel felt Lily shiver beside her, and the weight of despair thickened around them. The figure stepped forward, revealing a pale face, lips curled in an unnatural grin, eyes gleaming with something terrible. Was it hunger? Rachel's breath hitched, panic spiraling through her veins. They had to escape. "Run!" she urged, pulling Lily toward the opposite doorway. Behind her, the figure moved, silent but unyielding. "Mom, it's south too close," Lily cried, looking back as they dashed. Desperation ignited a fierce energy within Rachel. They had to be faster. As they stumbled into the living room, the walls pulsed, shadows dancing like wild flames. Did the house itself breathe? Rushing to the front window, Rachel frantically pulled at the frames, their fingers fumbling against the latch. Come on," she whispered, desperate for release. Outside, the street seemed impossibly far, the spaces in between now choked with dark. But the silence shattered. Heavy steps pounded behind them, resonating like thunder. Rachel turned just in time to see the figure closing in, shadows swirling around it like a cloak. "Mom!" Lily shrieked, her eyes flooded with terror. Rachel could almost feel the hot breath of the thing closing in on them. Then, a cacophony of whispers erupted. Everyone outside seemed silent, but a million voices filled the room, murmurings of lost souls trapped forever. They echoed her thoughts, intertwining fear and dread, pulling her further down into the darkness. With a final, desperate heave, she yanked the window open, spilling the chill of the night into the room. "Jump!" Rachel shouted, pushing her daughter through the opening. Before she could follow, the figure lunged. Rachel barely ducked, feeling the rush of dark air as it narrowly passed over her head. She scrambled as she felt icy fingers graze her shoulder. With a primal scream, she dove through the window, sending shards of glass exploding behind her. As she hit the grass outside, Rachel rolled and quickly stood, glancing back at the house. The figure loomed behind the glass, watching them intently. The whispers faded, leaving an unnerving silence in its wake. They escaped, but at what cost? "Mom, we need to go." Lily tugged, pulling Rachel further away from the house that now felt like a tomb. Rachel nodded, heart still racing, each pulse a reminder of their harrowing flight. She looked back once, and the figure had vanished. Where had it gone? Was it still watching? "Mom, what if it follows us?" Rachel held Lily close, pulling her daughter into a reassuring embrace, trying to muster strength where there was little left. "We'll find out," she whispered, glancing towards the direction of the streetlights flickering far ahead. Each flicker felt like it might be the last. They had to warn others, they had to survive. But as they moved forward, unease settled back in. The night had come alive, eyes watching from darkness. Were they truly free, or was something darker behind them, just waiting for the right moment? With each breath, Rachel felt the weight of foreboding return. How much longer could they run before they were pulled back into the depths of horror? The cold air bit at Rachel's skin as they stumbled away from the house, the ground beneath them muddy and slick. The streetlights ahead seemed both a beacon and a trap, flickering like dying stars. Each pulse cast strange, elongated shadows that twisted along the asphalt. Rachel stayed close to Lily, the girl's small hand trembling in her grip. "Mom, what if it comes out?" Lily asked breathlessly, fear etching her features deeper than any shadow could. Rachel forced herself to look around, scanning the street. No sign of the figure. Still, her instincts screamed that they weren't yet safe. They couldn't stop, they had to keep moving. "Just a little further," Rachel assured her, her voice wavering as dread clawed at her throat. "We're almost there." As they pushed down the street, she noticed the parked cars loomed like silent sentinels, their glassy surfaces reflecting the uncertain light. A shiver ran down her spine. Was it just the cold, or was something else lurking within the silence? They passed the end of their street, shadows shifting at the edge of her vision. It felt like eyes were boring into them, hidden in the darkened windows of the homes on either side. What if the neighbors had a hand in this? Rachel's thoughts were interrupted by a sudden crash, followed by frantic rustling in the bushes nearby. "Mom!" Lily screamed, clutching her tightly. A moment later, a raccoon bolted from the underbrush, its eyes wide, darting across the street. Rachel laughed nervously, trying to project calm. "Just an animal," she said, though her heart raced from more than just fear. The tension hung thick between them as they pressed on, Lily's breath puffing in quick bursts beside her. They reached the next intersection, where an old convenience store shone its fluorescent lights like a lighthouse beacon. "Stay close," Rachel instructed, scanning for any sign of life. The door creaked open as they stepped inside, its mechanical hum jittery, underscored by an unsettling quiet. The air was stale, filled with an unnatural stillness. Rows of shelves leaned forward like specters watching them, the hidden corners darkened like forgotten memories. Rachel's heart thumped erratically. Was it just her anxiety, or was something in here with them? "Hello?" she called out, voice catching. "Anyone here?" Nothing answered, but the hairs on the back of her neck stood on end. She scanned the aisles for movement, determination wrestled with dread. "Let us find someone," she encouraged Lily, though her own courage wavered. As they moved deeper into the store, Rachel felt a chill creep into her bones. The lights above flickered sporadically. Each flash seemed to tease the vulnerability of their situation. The whispers from moments before echoed in her mind were ghosts trapped in this place, too. Suddenly, a noise erupted from the back, a slam, then silence. They froze, instinctively pressing against each other as a new wave of fear washed over them. Mom, Lily whimpered, eyes wide with terror. "Stay behind me," Rachel said. Every ounce of her being urged her to run, but she took a step toward the sound, determination igniting in the depths of her fear. "Who's there?" she called, her voice stronger than she felt. No response. Silence swallowed her words, but then, a soft shuffle reached her ears, a breathy gasp. Rachel's mouth went dry. She turned to flee, pulling Lily with her, but the way out had morphed into an abyss of horror. The exit loomed farther away now, shadowed and daunting. A figure appeared behind the checkout counter, pale skin glimmering under the harsh fluorescent light. Its eyes seemed hollow, a knowing smirk creeping across its lips. "You shouldn't have come here," it hissed. Panic erupted in Rachel's chest. "Run!" she screamed, yanking Lily toward the opposite end of the store. But the aisles had become a maze, boxes and displays twisting to trap them. Something dark sidestepped into view, blocking their path. Rachel couldn't see clearly, but she could sense it, the smothering presence in the air that threatened to envelop them. With no other option, they dashed into a darkened aisle. The whispers returned, hissing their secrets, words of entrapment and despair. "Mom!" Lily cried out, her voice trembling. "Just hold on." Rachel pressed forward, praying for an exit, her mind racing, her heart pounding harder. What if they were meant to be there, hidden like lost souls within this haunted store? They turned sharply, and for a moment, Rachel thought she saw a way out, an emergency exit marked with a dim light. "There!" she yelled, but the figure stepped closer, and Rachel felt the very air shift, turning thick and suffocating. The whispers became a roar, drowning out her thoughts as she pushed toward the light, fearing it might flicker out just as quickly. "Mom, please!" Lily's voice cut through the chaos like a knife as they barreled toward the door, their only escape from the waking nightmare. Lily pulled back, her small body hesitating as fear tightened its grip around their escape, and as Rachel reached for the handle, she felt a hand slip into her hair, yanking her back with force. A scream escaped her throat, echoing through the store as she fought against it, desperation flooding her mind. What fresh horror had come for them this time? With a last glance back as they struggled against the pull, Rachel's heart sank when she saw the last glimmer of the convenience store lights fading. The shadows grew taller, darker, the demons feeding on their fear as they were pulled toward something even more sinister. Would they ever find true safety, or would they become part of the whispers echoing in the night? The grip on Rachel's hair tightened like a vice, yanking her toward the unseen threat lurking in the darkness. Her heart thundered in her ears, drowning out Lily's terrified cries. Adrenaline surged, fueling her impulse to fight. She could not let them be captured, not like this. "Let go of me!" Rachel screamed, twisting and pulling away. But no matter how she struggled, the hand was relentless, strong beyond reason, dragging her farther from Lily, from safety. The glow of the emergency exit dimmed, shadowy figures creeping in the periphery, their faces obscured yet full of menace. "Mom!" Lily's voice pierced the darkness. "Don't leave me!" Rachel's eyes darted back, panic igniting within her. She could see Lily standing alone now, frozen with wide eyes, terror rooting her in place. "Run, Lily! Get out!" Rachel yelled, but the words felt hollow, swallowed by the oppressive atmosphere. She thought of the stories she had heard of parents torn from their children, of families shattered in places like this. The figure behind the checkout counter stepped forward, revealing itself fully. It was featureless, a blank canvas where a face should be, skin pale and almost translucent. The store's flickering lights cast a sickly hue on it, making it look almost ethereal, as if it were part of the store's haunting fabric. "There's nowhere to hide," it hissed in a tone that echoed with a chilling familiarity. You're all mine now. Rachel's heart dropped. No! She cried, forcing herself to take a step toward Lily. Each movement felt like wading through molasses, the air heavy with dread. Shadows pooled around the figure as it grinned, widening its stance, an embodiment of all Rachel had feared, now materialized before her. From behind her, another presence emerged, darker, looming closer. It brushed against her back like a cold breeze, causing her to shiver. This was more than just one horror, it was a gathering of them, coming to claim what belonged to their dark realm. She turned sharply, eyes scanning for an escape, desperation carving a path through her fear. Lily, go. Now. Lily hesitated, her small face twisted with confusion and fright. The light above them buzzed, flickering increasingly, as if even the mechanism knew something terrible was near. The shelves began to shift, aisles expanding and retracting like the jaws of an unseen beast. But then, a sudden clarity seized Rachel. This way! She shouted as she pulled hard against the grip in her hair, unleashing her desperate fury. Summoning every ounce of strength, she lunged toward Lily, the darkness swirling thick around them. With one powerful motion, Rachel tore free of the hand clutching her, sending her flying toward her daughter. The shadows screeched, retreating momentarily at her defiance. Rachel reached for Lily, grabbing her hand, and they turned, running down an aisle that now seemed to lengthen endlessly. The air vibrated with whispers, promises of despair, a chorus of suppressed cries calling out to them. They were not alone anymore, the store was alive, breathing, hungry. Each step thundered in Rachel's chest, urgency propelling their escape, but fear seeped into the cracks of her resolve. Was this shop simply a place of refuge, or had it become part of some larger trap, something woven into the very fabric of her town, a grotesque keeper of secrets? Suddenly, the lights flickered and went out completely, leaving them in impenetrable darkness, the only sound their ragged breaths. Rachel turned back, fear coiling in her stomach. "We'll find a way out," she proclaimed, though doubt gnawed at her resolve. Then they heard a low, guttural chuckle from somewhere far in the dark, creeping closer. The air felt electric, heavy, charged with an evil intent, slithering between the narrow aisles. Rachel pulled Lily tighter, feeling the girl tremble in response. "Mom, what if they catch us?" Lily whispered, her small hand squeezing Rachel's tightly. "We won't let that happen," Rachel vowed, her voice a sliver of resolve amidst the engulfing dread. Yet beneath the surface, the truth gnawed like a hungry beast. What if they were already too late? And as they turned a corner, a pair of glowing eyes pierced the darkness, fixated on them as if they were the dinner. Rachel's mind raced with panic, and she had to act fast. She needed an escape plan, but each moment weighed heavy with desperation. "Stay close," she demanded, heart racing, the echo of the figure's laughter chasing after them. The darkness swirled around them like a living entity, closing in. Then a sound erupted, a loud crash, much closer now. "This way!" Rachel shouted as they stumbled toward an emergency exit, but when they reached it, the door wouldn't budge. Terror clawed at her throat. Everything around them seemed to shift, the store pulsating with a life of its own, chiming with a sinister rhythm, the promise of the hunt unfolding. What loomed behind the door seemed more frightening than what awaited them outside. They were cornered in a bite of darkness, and as Rachel struggled against the door, she heard it again, the unnerving laughter, and with it, the chilling realization, they were part of the game now. But just as the revelation settled, the door creaked open, eerily slow. Would daylight greet them on the other side, or only more nightmares? The door swung open with an unsettling creak, revealing only a murky void. Rachel stood there, her breath caught in her throat, heart racing at the unknown beckoning them. She hesitated, studying the darkness, and felt an unnatural chill roll off the threshold. "Lily, we can't stay here," she urged, her voice strained yet resolute. Another echo of laughter trickled through the aisles behind them, taunting, relentless. It crawled under her skin, turning her skin cold and clammy. "Mom!" Lily whimpered, her small face a mask of confusion and dread. There was no easy way to ease her trembling, but Rachel gripped her hand tighter, a lifeline in the chaos. Without another moment's delay, they stepped into the darkness together, the door slamming shut behind them with a loud bang that rattled the air. The sudden loss of light enveloped them, thick like fog. They were swallowed by it, whispers swirling around them, wrapping tighter and tighter. Then, a glint of something metallic caught Rachel's eye, a shopping cart abandoned in the shadowy expanse. She stumbled toward it, shoving it forward to clear their path. "Come on," Rachel said, pushing past an old display rack that felt as if it were breathing, its cardboard flaps flapping gently like a dying creature. They continued deeper, the air growing dense, almost viscous. Shadows danced on the walls, twisting into grotesque forms that flared and faded, keeping pace just out of reach. Each step sounded muffled as if they were moving through water. Rachel's heart began to race faster, her thoughts spiraling. What if they were trapped here forever? Out of the gloom, a distant thumping echoed, rhythmic and percussive, settling into an unsettling pattern. The sound wasn't random, it felt like a heartbeat, deep and foreboding, growing louder with each second. "Mom, I think it's coming from over there," Lily pointed into the murky distance, where a fissure in the darkness whispered promises of escape. "Stay close," Rachel commanded, squeezing Lily's hand as they edged toward the sound. But at that moment, a wall of shadow surged before them, solidifying into a wall of terror. It blocked their path, dark tendrils reaching out as if sensing their fear. Rachel froze, an icy grip around her lungs. "Do you think they know we're here?" Lily's voice quaked, but it was drowned by the pounding. The heartbeat now throbbed louder, rhythmically pushing them back as if urging them to retreat. Another crash erupted behind them, sending Rachel spiraling into a panic. "This way!" she shouted again, dragging Lily toward the only available opening, a dimly lit passageway obscured by boxes that appeared to sway like they were alive. They dove into the gap, the rough edges of the boxes scraping against their skin. Stumbling forward, Rachel felt the cold bite of malevolence wrapping around them, clenching like an iron fist. But the heartbeat pulsed stronger, almost encouraging them. As they slipped through, the boxes collapsed behind them, blocking the pursuit for a mere moment. They pressed on, hearts racing faster and faster, the air thick with dread. "Where are we going?" Lily gasped, dread pooling in her small voice. "I don't know, sweetheart. Just keep moving," Rachel urged, choking back her own fear. What choice did they have? The pounding grew ever louder as they surged deeper into the abyss, and yet, each moment they spent fleeing felt like they were being drawn into something horrific. Suddenly, the lights flickered back on a blinding flash that illuminated what lay ahead. They emerged into a wide expanse, filled with remnants of a forgotten time. Decorations from years past drooped from the ceiling, cobwebs glistening like traps hung low. In the center of the space stood a glass case, the contents shrouded in darkness, but the faint outlines glowed oddly. As they approached, a familiar sound returned, a child's giggle. But this time it wasn't Lily, it didn't belong to her. Rachel's blood ran cold as the echoes of laughter crescendoed, becoming a sing-song chant swirling through the air. It coiled around them, binding their sanity in its unholy grip. She turned to Lily, panic etched deep in their faces. "We need to go back. Now." But as they turned, the shattered floor creaked ominously below them, threatening to give way. Shadows morphed around them, closing in like jaws poised to strike. Could they slip through before it all collapsed, or had they unwittingly walked into a trap that would seal their fates? As Rachel felt the heavy weight of darkness closing, she realized they stood at a point of no return. The laughter faded into silence, yet remained a haunting echo that lingered in their thoughts as they scrambled for an escape. The threshold of hope twisted in her gut. Was there truly a way back, or had they only awakened a slumbering nightmare? The air thickened, pressing down on them like a lead blanket. Rachel felt as if she was choking on shadows, each breath coming harder than the last. The darkness was no longer just around them, it seeped into her very soul, whispering dark secrets. As they turned from the menacing void behind, a soft whimper brushed against her ear. "Mom, I can't see." Lily's words trembled, and Rachel squeezed her hand harder, wishing she could shield her daughter from the terror looming over them. "Just hold on tight," Rachel breathed, forcing herself to stay steady. They stumbled toward the glass case that glowed eerily, knowing they had to see what held such sinister allure. Up close, the glass was surprisingly cold, the contours of the case shifting as if alive. Inside, the light pulsed, revealing shapes that twisted and morphed. A soft shimmer appeared, illuminating outlines of small toys, broken dolls, serpentine figures, remnants of childhood lost, but then, something else emerged, obscured by darkness yet radiating a grisly charm. A doll, its eyes wide open, wore a grin too bright for the bleakness surrounding it. Rachel shuddered, a cold shiver racing down her spine. She felt as if the doll was watching them, judging them. "Mom, it's so creepy." Lily recoiled, pulling back. Rachel tried to look away, but something compelled her, an insatiable urge to reach out. "Lily, I need you to stay right here." Before she could summon the strength to resist, her fingers grazed the glass. A shock reverberated through her, a pulse that matched the rhythmic thumping that seemed to resonate from within the doll itself. A moment of clarity washed over her. The heartbeat wasn't just a sound, it was a presence, alive and aware, an echo of a deeper evil. "Mom, it's getting darker," Lily cried, and panic flooded Rachel as she realized the glow from the case was fading, swallowed by the expanding shadows. "Stay close to me," she shouted, but Lily's small frame seemed to curl into the fear that hung thick in the air. They turned to run, but the darkness was alive, wrapping around them like claws, snatching at their ankles and tethering them to that cursed place. With a frantic lunge, Rachel grabbed Lily's arm but was met with resistance. "Mom! I can't move my feet." Panic filled her daughter's voice, the despair resonating painfully as Rachel pulled and pulled, desperate. "Fight it!" Rachel screamed, feeling the ground tremble beneath them, shaking as if alive. The walls began to shift, closing the space around them, inching closer like predators closing in on prey, threatening to swallow them whole. "Mom! Mom!" Lily screamed, frantic tears glistening in her wide eyes. Rachel's heart raced as she dug her heels into the floor. "Keep moving. Come on." It seemed the shadows were whispering, echoing taunts and laughter, telling her to give in, to submit to the darkness, but as they lurched forward towards a fading light in the distance, Rachel caught sight of something shocking, a reflection of herself and Lily in the glass case. But it showed them twisted and dark, screams silenced, eyes void of life. The realization hit her like a blow, their escape wasn't just physical. They were in a battle for their very souls, they had to run, or become lost in the darkness forever. But as Rachel pulled Lily closer, the ground erupted with dim shapes breaking through the surface, faces, hands, reaching for her daughter. It was an army of lost souls, dragging both of them towards the brink. With one might push against the tide of gloom, they lunged forward, desperate for the light that seemed almost within reach. Yet, just as hope flickered, the shadows surged with a roar, blocking their escape, vibrating with a sinister laughter that heralded their doom. Then it happened. A cold grip seized her throat, a choking force that demanded her to submit. Could they find the strength to fight back and break free, or was there still something waiting to awaken in them, forever lost in the haunting whispers? The answer loomed large, but in the pitch of night, their future hung in the balance, teetering precariously. Rachel's breath quickened, each pant pulled deeper than the last. The grip around her throat loosened momentarily, but the shadows crawled back, threads of inky darkness tightening like a noose. "Lily!" she cried, voice cracking, desperate to cut through the terror suffocating them. "I'm here, Mom." Lily's small voice trembled, but she was still rooted in place, the darkness seeming to fuse with her shoes, anchoring her to the ground. With sheer willpower, Rachel yanked her daughter, dragging her body against the relentless grip of the shadows. The air felt electric, crackling with a sinister energy that seemed to swell, drawing them back toward the cursed glass case. She had to move, had to get them both out. We need to fight it. Suddenly, the doll began to slide, gliding towards the glass, eyes still locked onto Rachel S. with an eerie, knowing gaze. A horrifying realization seized her, this wasn't just any doll. It was a vessel, a conduit for these accumulated souls, bound to the darkness that sought to consume them. Heart pounding, Rachel pulled Lily closer as the doll's grin widened, the shadows swirling, forming a tempest of noise and agony. Whispers filled her ears, strangled cries from souls long lost, desperate to latch onto the living. Mom! The darkness! It's taking me! Lily screamed as her feet began to sink into the floor, the dark tendrils swirling around her ankles, forcing her down. Panic surged through Rachel, a raw, primal fear that hammered against her ribs. Hold on! Rachel shouted, her voice breaking through the encroaching noise. She grabbed Lily's arms, forcing her to meet her gaze. You have to believe you can escape. You are stronger than this. Lily's eyes widened, fear and determination battling within her. Okay, Mom, I'll try. With a surge of effort, she began to pull against the dark hold. But as they fought, more hands emerged from the shadows, grasping at them with an insatiable hunger. Each finger was cold, each touch an uncanny chill. Rachel felt a knot of despair settle in her stomach when she glanced back at the glass. The reflection warped grotesquely, showing them twisted and shriveled inside the very soul of their being, slowly being stolen. Time stretched, seconds feeling like hours, as the wall of darkness shifted, nearing their fragile forms. Then Rachel screamed with a furious energy she didn't know she had. Not today. She charged forward, taking Lily's hand, and together they surged toward the only glimmer of light, the flicker breaking through the suffocating dark. As they barreled forward, the shadows wailed, a cacophony of despair echoing in her ears, memories revealing themselves within the dark, lost children, trapped spirits, all reaching out in their own moments of helplessness. Mom, I can't hold on. Lily cried, her small fingers slipping from Rachel's grasp. No. Come back. The raw panic fueled a burst of adrenaline. Rachel lunged, grasping her daughter just before the shadows could pull her under. Then came a spine-chilling laugh, emerging from the doll, reverberating through the air with a malicious glee. You cannot escape your fate, it sneered, echoing in their minds like a death knell. As the last of the light flickered, Rachel held on to Lily, terrified to look directly at what loomed behind them. They moved as one, a single heartbeat smashing against the consuming dread. Darkness clawed at their backs, desperately grasping, but Rachel was determined. With one final push, they stumbled into a thin beam of light the moment the darkness ripped apart. Rachel flung herself forward, they crashed through the threshold into blinding daylight, gasping for breath. But as they turned around to catch their breath, the glass case was gone. The soft laughter still reverberated in their skulls, a promise of return. Fear coursed through Rachel's veins as she looked down at Lily's eyes, now wide with horror. Are we safe, Mom? But Rachel could already feel the darkness lurking in the corners of her mind. It wasn't over. Not yet, sweetie, she murmured, trembling as that sinister laugh echoed just beneath the surface of her thoughts. What awaited them next? A confrontation with the sinister force that had bound them, a reality where the line between them and the shadows blurred. Was their escape merely an illusion, or a prelude to something much worse? The darkness still watched, and it was not done with them yet. Rachel stood in the harsh light of day, the overwhelming brightness contrasting sharply with the darkness they had just escaped. The air felt heavy, charged with a lingering dread. They had pushed through the threshold, but the skirmish was far from over. The sinister laughter echoed in her mind like a cruel melody, and it settled there, whispering threats of what was yet to come. Mom, please tell me we're safe now. Lily's voice quivered, and Rachel knelt down, her daughter's wide eyes filled with apprehension pulling at her heart. We just need to keep moving, okay? Rachel forced a smile, though fear gnawed at her insides. She took Lily's hand, the grip reassuring and solid. Let us get to the police station. They'll help us. They have to. As they walked briskly, each step felt like a step deeper into a nightmare. The suburban street that had once felt homey now loomed with a new energy, the air thick and dense with unseen eyes. The neighborhood was eerily quiet, void of the usual sounds, no cars passing, no children laughing. It felt hollow, like a shell of what had been. "Mom," Lily whispered, her small hand trembling in Rachel's grip. What if they're still watching us?" Rachel's heart sank. She wanted to say something reassuring, but she couldn't shake the chilling feeling that they were still being hunted, the darkness lurking right behind their shadows. "They can't hurt us if we reach the station. Just keep your head down and stay close." But even as she spoke those words, doubt crept into her mind like an unwelcome guest. Were they really safe? Had they merely escaped one trap only to find themselves caught in another? The gut-wrenching thought followed them down the block. Suddenly, a flash of movement caught Rachel's eye. In the periphery, she saw a figure, a neighbor, someone they knew well, standing at the end of the street. Its face was obscured, but those familiar clothes, that familiar stance, the hairs on Rachel's neck stood on end. "Lily, keep walking," she urged, quickening her pace. "What?" Lily asked, looking back, and Rachel grabbed her hand tighter. "Just trust me. We need to get away from here." But it was too late. Before they could turn to flee, the neighbor began to step forward, moving slow and deliberate, and something felt deeply wrong. There was no smile, no wave, just an unblinking stare that sent chills spiraling down Rachel's spine. "Get back!" Rachel shouted, adrenaline surging. "Run!" Without hesitating, she pulled Lily with her, sprinting toward the police station. The pounding in her ears drowned out everything else. They darted through the streets, desperation carving a path through the oppression of the quiet. A low chorus of whispers flared up behind them, echoes of laughter laced with malice, hearts thumping heavy in the unseen darkness, twisting through the very fabric of the air around them. "Mom, I can't keep running." Lily gasped, her little legs struggling to keep pace. "Just a little further," Rachel urged, pain clawing at her throat. With every step, the laughter pulsed from the depths, rising louder and louder. The neighbors, now faceless silhouettes, formed a grotesque army, descending upon them. The police station finally loomed ahead, a beacon of safety among the chaos. But as they reached the door, Rachel turned just in time to see the neighbor's face twist into an unnatural grinning mask that chilled her to the bone. It wasn't just one person. They were all drawn, changed. "Move!" she shouted, yanking the door open. They stumbled inside, breathless and disheveled. The bright light felt like a refuge, but Rachel could still feel the oppressive weight trying to follow them through the threshold. The interior was stark and sterile, a loud contrast to the chaos outside. "We're safe now," she panted, pulling Lily close. Behind them, the door slammed shut, a heavy sound echoing in the empty entryway. But the momentary calm shattered when a chilling realization struck Rachel. The police station was empty. No officers. No reception. Just silence. "Mom? Where is everyone?" Lily asked, her voice small, echoing through the ghostly space. As Rachel turned, something shifted in the shadows, deeper inside the station. The darkness spoke in that familiar taunting laugh, coiling round them like vines. She could feel the fear seep back in, fingers of dread gripping her heart. "Stay by my side, Lily. Don't move," Rachel hissed, her instincts urging her to pull helplessly against the walls of horror creeping closer. They didn't have time to breathe or doubt. They had no choice but to venture deeper into the station. Each step felt like walking through a graveyard, ghosts of fear rising to meet them. Then, suddenly, there it was, the source of the sound was revealed. The glass case stood at the far end of the corridor, pulsing with that sickening light. The doll was back, grinning, the smiles of the lost souls trapped inside reflected upon its visage. Rachel's throat tightened, an instinctive urge to flee clawing at her mind. "Lily, no matter what, don't touch it," she shouted as the chilling laughter crescendoed, echoing off the walls like a sinister chorus of the damned. "Mom! It's calling me!" Lily wailed, moving toward it as if entranced. "Stop!" Rachel sprinted forward, desperate to block her vision, to shield her from the darkness threatening to sweep her away. Just as she reached for Lily, the whispers tore through the air, forming a whirlwind of despair. The laughter intensified, haunting and relentless. The whispers turned into screams, claws grazing at Rachel's mind, unsettling shadows settling over them like a suffocating blanket. "You're too late, join us," echoed 1,000 voices reverberating in her thoughts. "Lily! Get back!" she cried, the panic coursing through her as she lunged, just barely grasping her daughter's arm. The shadows stretched and pulled at their feet, desperately trying to hold them back. With a burst of adrenaline, Rachel shouted at the growing darkness, "You can't have us. We are stronger than you." With all her might, she pushed forward, breaking the grip of the shadows, dragging Lily with her toward the light emanating from the case. But just when they felt hope surging, just when they were sure they'd break free, the glass case shattered, splintering into infinite pieces that flew at them like shards of life. Each piece released a soul, trapped shadows now unmoored from their eternal prison, twisting and swirling like a tempest of grief. "Mom!" Lily screamed as darkness surged violently, threatening to swallow them whole. "Hold on to me!" Rachel bellowed, feeling the pull of the darkness clawing at her. They twisted, they fought, the abyss raging as she grasped tightly onto Lily's small frame. "We're not done yet. We will break free." The laughter turned to wails, the sound ripping through the atmosphere as they pushed together, forcing the darkness back. Rachel's heart felt like a drum, pounding furiously, the shadows bending and twisting, but they pressed against it, pushing for the light at the edge of desperation. And then, in one final surge of defiance, Rachel shouted, "You will not take us." With every ounce of strength, she propelled them forward, bursting through the remnants of the darkness, pushing against the weight of hopelessness. They crossed the threshold of the shattered glass, and the world erupted around them. Light flooded back in, a radiant dawning as the whispers fell silent. The insidious laughter hushed into an echo, fading into nothingness as they staggered into the open air once more, gasping for relief. "Mom, did we do it?" Lily whimpered, a small spark of hope sparkling in her eyes. Rachel didn't answer right away. She felt the weight of their battle pressing still on her chest. "I don't know, but we're together." As she knelt before her daughter, embracing her fiercely, the laughter that lingered in the back of her mind subsided, replaced by a promise. They had conquered the dark forces of the night, but the specter of fear would always linger in their hearts. One last shudder coursed through Rachel's bones, a reminder of the secrets lurking in shadows, hidden stories waiting in the dark. But for now, they would walk forward, hand in hand, determined to reclaim their lives from the nightmares they had escaped. The darkness had lost this battle, and Rachel vowed that together, they would fight against it for every moment that followed. And as they stepped into the day, a new challenge loomed, but both knew they were ready to face it. They were promised freedom, and they would fight for it until the last breath. This was their rebirth, and they would never look back. Now you need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm and help us reach more fans like you. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this conclusion. Your voice matters. And for goodness sake, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.